Look at this bird right here. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, let me give you a test. If I could tell you this bird's name in English, Chinese, Latin, Portuguese, and Italian, would you know anything about the bird? Let me answer that for you. Absolutely nothing. Zero. You'd only know what different groups. It's still there, completely independent of your vocabulary list, flying around, living its life, not caring one bit about what you call it. Today, I'm going to show you the enormous gap between what school taught you to call knowledge and what the universe actually expects you to understand. When other kids would come up and say, "Hey, Richard, do you know the name of that bird?" And when I said I didn't, they'd laugh at me. Doesn't your father teach you anything? But here's the thing. My father had already told me about that bird. He'd say, "See that bird, Richard? That's a bee." In Portuguese, it's a something else entirely. Then he'd look at me and say something I'll never forget. Now, you can know all those names in every language in the world, and when you're finished, you'll know absolutely nothing about the bird. You'll only know about people in different places and... So let's forget about names and watch what the bird does instead. Think about what that means for a second. We spend so much of our lives collecting labels, memorizing terms, filing things away into neat little categories. And we call that learning. But is it? Is it really? Imagine you have a friend. Does that mean you know them? Does that mean they're actually your friend? Of course not. Those are just labels, just data points. Knowing someone means understanding how they think, what makes them laugh, what scares them, how they react when things go wrong. Naming something is like putting it in. Because now you know what it is, right? Your brain says, "Okay, task complete. We labeled it. Moving on." But real knowledge is keeping that box open forever. Real knowledge is never being satisfied with the label. So, my father and I started watching that bird instead of naming it. The bird kept... My father said, "Look, Richard, why do you think it's doing that?" I said, "Maybe its feathers got messed up when it was flying." He smiled and said, "Well, if that were true, it would stop after it landed and the feathers settled down, right?" But look, it's still doing it. Actually, it's cleaning off. Lice eat the feathers. They digest the protein inside them. Do you see what just happened? Instead of learning a name, I learned about an entire hidden ecosystem. I learned about a survival struggle, about parasites and adaptation, about the constant battle every living thing fights just to exist. A chain of events, a web of causes and effects, a story that never ends. Now you might ask, can we observe everything? Can we see all the layers? No, we can't. We could look at the lice on the bird, then the bacteria inside the lice, then the viruses inside the bacteria. And we'd have to stop. It's about whether you're being honest while you're observing. We trust the definitions in textbooks so much that when we see something weird with our own eyes, we actually think, the book doesn't say that, so I must be seeing it wrong. I will always choose seeing it wrong over trusting the book. You go to school and you learn, let's say, about photosynthesis. The teacher writes on the board, "Photosynthesis is the process by which plants convert light energy into chemical energy." You memorize that sentence. You write it on the test. You get an A. Congratulations. But do you know what photo? You know what the word means according to one particular sentence someone wrote in a textbook. You haven't seen the light hitting the leaf. You haven't imagined the chlorophyll molecules dancing around, absorbing photons. You haven't thought about the carbon dioxide coming in and the oxygen going out. The word photosynthesis actually stopped you from understanding photosynthesis. This happens everywhere. in every subject. We learn the word democracy, but we don't watch how power actually flows through a society. We learn the word inflation, but we don't see the human behaviors in institutions. We learn mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and we think we understand cellular respiration, but we don't. We just memorized a slogan. Words are weak tools for describing reality. If I tell you about love, does that word capture the chaos in your heart when you feel it? Of course not. We've just given it a name so we can move on with our day. Real science is the ability to remain fascinated by the invisible mechanism underneath the name. Here's what's beautiful, and also kind of terrifying. The more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know. But when my father taught me to observe instead of name, I felt something different. I felt small, but in a good way. I felt like I was standing at the edge of an infinite ocean of mystery, and every wave that crashed against the shore was another question I'd never thought to ask. Let me tell you. You'll be drinking your morning coffee and you'll suddenly wonder, wait, what is coffee doing to my brain right now? Not the word caffeine, but the actual molecules, crossing the blood-brain barrier, fitting into receptor sites like keys into locks, changing the electrical patterns in my neurons. It means the molecules in the glass are jiggling slower than the molecules in my hand, and heat is flowing from me into the glass. And my nerves are detecting that flow and screaming cold to my brain. The world stops being a collection of labeled objects and becomes a living, breathing impossible. Because every single thing around you, every mundane, ordinary thing you've walked past 1,000 times, is actually a miracle wrapped in a mystery. That pencil on your desk made of carbon atoms arranged in a crystalline lattice, and those atoms are billions of years old. Forged in the heart of an ancient star that exploded and scattered its guts across space, so that eventually, after eons, those atoms could end up in your hand, helping you write a grocery list. We need to communicate. We need to build on each other's discoveries. If every scientist had to rediscover everything from scratch, we'd never get anywhere. Language is a tool, and tools are incredibly valuable. But a tool is not the thing itself. A map is not the territory. The menu is not the meal. Here's your homework, and I'm serious about this. Pick something you think you know really well. A pen, a spoon, your cat, your phone, whatever. Something you see every day and never think about. Now forget its name. I mean it. Pretend you're an alien who just landed on Earth and you've never seen. How does light reflect off its surface? If you touch it, what do you feel and why? If it moves, how does it move? What's it made of? And I don't mean plastic or metal. I mean, what are those materials at the atomic level? And why do they behave the way they do? And I promise you, that object will never look the same again. You'll have actually learned something real, something that wasn't handed to you by a teacher or a textbook. You'll have touched the actual universe instead of just the words we use to describe it. In our next lesson, we're going to look. We're going to talk about what physical laws actually are. Not the equations we write down, but the deep structure of reality itself. Why does the universe follow rules at all? Can those rules change? And what does it mean to truly understand them versus just memorizing them? Keep watching. Keep questioning. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the cosmos. Until next time, farewell.